In order to understand what a composition of a function is, it might be helpful first to focus on this word. Because if we understand what a composition means, then that makes this make a lot more sense. So if I type into Google what composition means, and I look on, any basic definition, it seems to be that a composition is basically just taking a bunch of different things and blending them to become one thing. So a composition in language is the formation of words into a compound word. So in math, composition is going to be the same thing, but when we're dealing with functions, a composition of functions is going to be taking a few different functions and putting them together to make one function. So in this case, we have this notation here. It says f of g. If you're wondering what this symbol is, this means of. Sometimes people will write f of g like this, where they will write f and in parentheses they'll write g in the middle. And instead of writing f of g of 5 like this, they might write f of g of 5 like this. So either way, these are pretty interchangeable notations that we're dealing with here. But we're going to go ahead and focus on this main one that we have. So normally, if I have f of x, we say f of x is equal to 3x plus 1. And if I said f of 5, well then what we would do is, since x gets plugged in for x, now 5 is going to be plugged in for x. So we would just plug in 5 for x. So it would be 3 times 5 plus 1. So f of 5 would be equal to whatever this is, which is 15 plus 1, which is 16. So f of 5 is going to be equal to 16. But we're not asking what f of 5 is. We're asking what f of g of 5 is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write this out. And I'm actually going to write it in this notation. And for the time being, I'm going to focus on my f of x function to be in orange and my g of x function to be in purple. So when I say f of g of x, let's write it like this. F of g of x. And so I don't want to know what f of g of x is right now. I want to know what f of g of 5 is, it says in the original part. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug in 5 into the notation. So f of g of, then we'll say 5. And now what I am going to do is I'm going to work inside out. Inside to out. This is going to be my main strategy here. And what I mean by that is this. I'm going to start out by writing out my f of portion of my equation. But now instead of writing g of 5, I'm going to write the function of g inside my notation. So instead of writing g of 5, I'm just going to write x minus 2. But remember, it's not g of x, it's g of 5. So I'm going to write 5 minus 2. Just like that. So then that means I go ahead and simplify down what I can. And if I have f of 5 minus 2, I can write that in a simpler way by saying f of 3. So now we can keep going, and we can say, well, f of 3, that's just whatever f of x is with 3 plugged in as x. And so f of x is 3x plus 1, but I need to remember that it's not f of x, it's f of 3. So instead of writing x, I'm going to write in 3. So we have 3 times 3 plus 1, which means that it's just 9 plus 1, which is 10. So long story short, we started with f of g of 5, and after we worked inside out, we discovered that it's equal to 10. So my final answer, in summary, is f of g of 5 is equal to 10.